Good morning and welcome to TryHard Reading Corner 27. It's crazy to say this will be our last TryHard Reading Corner for the school year. That's kind of nuts. I'm sorry I've been away for a little bit. Not gonna lie, my teacher duties were more pressing, and I do think something that everybody should learn is, there are definitely times, when you need to slow down, you need to take a pause button, you need to take a break. And so I've been kind of doing that and focusing a lot on the whole teaching aspect and helping you kiddos, helping my students, which has been great. But I haven't been making as many videos as I was, but now I'm back and I missed you and I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is our last one. It's kind of a goodbye episode. We are going to be able to finish Wayside, so it's gonna be great. But yeah, let's start with a funny story. So I couldn't decide what funny story to say. So I thought I'd do one school related because, hey, school's almost out, summertime. So when I was a kiddo, especially junior high, I really started getting into musicals and choir, and that was one of my favorite hobbies. And one thing I wasn't like really bad at, so I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I made a musical. And when you're in a musical, oftentimes you have to like memorize lines, memorize songs, but you also have choreographies, like fancy dance moves where everybody has to dance at the exact same time and do the exact same moves. And I'm not a bad dancer, but am I, my Michael Jackson moonwalk? I'm not. And the thing I think that's hard for me is I'm not good at everybody doing the same step at the same time. Sometimes that can be harder for me, so I have to work really hard for it, but I can get there. Now, for one of these songs, there's a crazy dance break, which means that, like, usually with songs, like, you're singing along, and then there's like this little 30-second hole where it's just music and nobody's singing, and you get to dance, but you have to hardcore dance, so it's like way more intense than like a step snap, And so we had this huge dance break thing. Now the choreographer saw the talent she was working with. She's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. For that dance break, you can do whatever you want. I don't care, because this scene is kind of like crazy, busy, whatever. So for this scene, you can do a dance move that whatever you want. I would recommend that every time we practice, you do the same dance move. So that way, when, people are in the audience and it's actually time to go, it doesn't feel, panicky. What am I going to do this time? But you pick choreography. So a lot of power. So I'm thinking there, and I don't know what to do. And it's not like I'm going to create a new dance move today. But I wanted to figure something. I love being the center of attention. What can I say? And I want to do something funny. And so around that time, Gangnam Style came out. Remember that? Where it's like, oh, 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 that song? That song came out. And so me and two of my friends, we had to stand by each other for the choreography. So we thought it'd be funny if us three did the Gangnam Style while everybody else is like, being crazy and doing whatever. And we were going to do the Gangnam Style. It was going to be amazing. So we're practicing, everybody thinks it's funny, we're like, this is gonna be great, we got this. And I'm more towards the front of the stage, really close to the people, okay? I don't know how I sneaking my way up to the front, but I'm in the front for this song. So I'm like, this is great, this is icing on the cake, this is my moment. So, opening night rolls around. And the dances are probably the part I'm most nervous about. So I'm practicing all things, I'm trying to remember what I do, and I dance here, and I dance here, and then I go like this, and I go like that, and I'm trying to remember everything. And I'm like, I'm gonna dance my heart out. I'm gonna leave my heart on the stage. It's gonna be amazing. And so it's that song. It's the dance break song. So we're doing all the dance moves, and everybody's doing it right. All of a sudden, it is the dance break. The moment I've been waiting for. I'm like, I'm gonna get a couple of laughs out of this. So I start doing the Gangnam Style, and I am dancing with passion and ferocity, and I am just dancing my little heart out. And so I'm dancing, and like when you do the Gangnam Style, like you're hopping kind of and like skipping while you do it. So I'm like skipping and hopping like crazy, like a mad bunny. And then all of a sudden, I can't feel the floor anymore. And I feel myself going back. And then I look up, and I am sitting in the lap of an old lady. And like, haha, Miss Johnson, that's funny. She did not find it entertaining. So I'm like sitting like this, and this old lady's like, and so I like hop and I like crawl myself back up, and then I like fake, dancing with the rest of the group. But I straight up Gangnam Style danced off the stage into somebody. And I kid you not, she gave me little daggers and just followed me the rest of the show. It was so bad. The funniest part is like, okay, yeah, that didn't work out, but like that had to pull some people's eyes when I like danced off the stage. My family completely missed it. So I know they weren't watching me during that scene. So I gave them a piece of my mind, but I was also just dying because I literally danced off the stage. It was awesome. What was it? It was interesting. And it's something I can relate to you. It's a new story. But isn't that funny? I thought that was funny. And it made me think of school and pals and fun memories and stuff, so I thought I'd share it. So yeah, Miss Johnson has danced off a stage, and it was awesome. And I even got back up on the stage and kept dancing. So that's a fun little factoid about me. Now we are going to finish Wayside. It's going to be amazing. There are 3 chapters, but these last 3 chapters are really little, so it's going to be great. And what a nice way to wrap things up for you. There are no pictures, so I'm not going to show you pictures. Chapter 28, Nancy. Nancy had big hands and big feet. He didn't like his name. He thought it was a girl's name. None of the other children in Mrs. Jewell's class thought that Nancy's name was odd. They didn't think of it as a girl's name or a boy's name. Nancy was just the name of the quiet kid with the big hands and feet who sat over there in the corner next to John. Nancy was very quiet and shy. He was ashamed of his name. He had only one friend, a girl who went to class on the 23rd story of Wayside School. They were friends for a good reason. He didn't know her name and she didn't know his. They just called each other, "Hey you," or just plain you. Isn't that nice? Nancy was afraid to ask his friends what her name was because then he might have to tell her his name. He never could figure out why she never asked, but he was happy to just leave well enough alone. One morning, Nancy and his friend were late. When they got to the 23rd story, his friend's teacher was waiting outside. "Hurry up, you are late, Mac," said the teacher. Nancy's friend turned red. She didn't move. "Come on, Mac, shake a leg, get the lead out," said the teacher. "Your name is Mac?" asked Nancy. Mac was very pretty. She had red hair and freckles. She covered her face and ran into the room. "My name is Nancy," Nancy called after her. Mac stepped back outside. "I was ashamed to tell you my name," she said. "Me too," said Nancy. "Nancy's a girl's name." "Oh, I think it's cute," said Mac. "I like the name Mac," said Nancy. "Mac's a boy's name," said Mac. "My mother has a very rich aunt named Nancy," said Nancy. "That's why she gave the name to me." "My mom once had a dog named Mac," said Mac. "Hey, do you want to trade?" Nancy asked. "Can we?" said Mac. "I don't see why not," said Nancy. "Oh," said Mac. They both spun around 100 times in opposite directions until they were so dizzy that they fell over. When they stood up, Mac was Nancy and Nancy was Mac. They said goodbye, then Mac ran up to Mrs. Jewell's room and he was no longer shy. "Hey everybody, my name is Mac," he announced. "I traded names," and he held out his big hand. Todd jumped up and shook it. "Hi, Mac," he said. "So glad to meet you." "How you doing, Mac?" said Ron. "Howdy, Mac," said Terrence. "Nice to see you, Mac," said BB. "You traded names?" asked Jason. Jason didn't like his name either. "That's right, Jason, old boy," said Mac. "Is that allowed?" asked Jason. "Why not?" said Mac. "Hey, anyone want to trade?" Jason called. "I'll trade with you," said Terrence. He didn't like his name either. "Wait, I'll trade with you, Terrence," said Maricela. Maricela didn't like her name. "No, he's trading with me," said Jason. "I'll trade with you, Maricela," said Damien. "No, thanks," said Maricela. "I'll trade with you, Damien," said Mrs. Jules. "No." Gross. Sorry. "No, I want to be Mrs. Jules," said Stephen. It turned out that nobody in Mrs. Jules' class liked his name. The children all spun around in different directions until they got so dizzy they fell over, and when they stood up again, nobody knew who anybody was. "What are we going to do, Mrs. Jules?" asked Leslie, who was really Eric Bacon. My name's not Mrs. Jules, it's Maricela, answered Terrence, who was really Jason. It is not. I'm Maricela, said Dee Dee, who was really Joe. You're both wrong, said Maricela. I'm Mrs. Jules. This went on for an hour. At last, they figured out who the real Rondi was, because she was the one with the missing 2 front teeth. After they figured out Rondi, they were able to get Allison pretty easily, and then from there, they got DJ, Damien, and Mrs. Jules. She was the oldest one. Eventually, they figured out who everybody really was, and they had some difficulty deciding which Eric was which, and eventually, they were actually not really sure. Everybody just decided to keep his own name. The children didn't like them, but it made things much easier. Mac and Nancy kept their new names, but when they were together, they still called each other Hey You or just plain You. Chapter 29, Stephen. Stephen had green hair. He had purple ears and a blue face. He wore his sister's pink dancing shoes and green leotard. The leotard matched his hair. He was dressed up like a goblin for Mrs. Jules' Halloween party, but unfortunately, it wasn't Halloween. Ha ha ha, you look so stupid, said Jason. Jason was Stephen's best friend. So do you, said Stephen. Boy, are you dumb, said Jenny. Halloween is on Sunday. Today is only Friday. You're the one who's dumb, said Stephen. Haha, you probably come up to school on Sunday. Mrs. Jules said we'd have a party today. But none of the other children wore costumes, only Stephen. All right, class, said Mrs. Jules, it's time for our Halloween party. See, said Stephen. Mrs. Jules gave each child a cookie and that looked like an orange witch with a black hat. She laughed when she saw Stephen and forgot to give him one. Stephen didn't ask her it. He was afraid that she'd laugh again. The children finished their cookies in less than 30 seconds. All right, class, said Mrs. Jules. The party's over. We have a lot of work to do. Stephen felt like a fool. The party lasted less than a minute, and he had to spend the rest of the day wearing his stupid goblin suit. Look, Stephen's wearing his sister's leotards, laughed Dana. They're green, just like his hair, said Fatso. Everyone laughed. Mrs. Jules began the arithmetic lesson. She wrote on the blackboard, 2 + 2 = 5. That's wrong, Joyce shouted. Mrs. Jules tried again. 2 + 2 = 3. That wasn't right either. She added 2 + 2 again and got 43. That was useless. No matter how hard she tried, she could not get 2 + 2 = 4. I don't understand it, she said. They've always equaled 4 before. Suddenly she screamed. The chalk turned into a squiggly worm. She dropped it to her feet. Then all the lights went out and the blackboard lit up like a movie screen. A woman appeared on the screen. She had a long tongue and pointed ears. She stepped off the screen and into the classroom. It was the ghost of Mrs. Gorf. Mrs. Gorf ran her fingernails across the blackboard. Trick or treat, you rotten kids, she said. Now I'll get even with every last one of you. Where's Todd? Who is that? Asked Mrs. Jules. Mrs. Gorf, said Damien. Who's Mrs. Gorf? Asked Mrs. Jules. She's the meanest teacher in the whole world, said Ron. What happened to her? Asked Mrs. Jules. Louis ate her, said Jason. Well, I'm not going to allow this, said Mrs. Jules. Get out of my classroom, she demanded. It's Halloween, my sweet teacher, said Mrs. Gorf. Ghosts can go anywhere they like. I've come for a little class reunion. But it isn't Halloween, said Mrs. Jules. Halloween is still 2 days away. I know, said Mrs. Gorf, but Halloween falls on a Sunday this year, so we're celebrating it on the Friday before. Stephen leapt up to his seat. See, I was right, he said. Today's the day we celebrate. The Friday before. Mrs. Gorf proved it. He ran up to Mrs. Gorf. They all laughed at me and made me feel stupid because I'm the only one who dressed up. But they're the ones who are wrong. You and I are right. He put his arms around Mrs. Gorf and hugged her. Mrs. Gorf gasped and disappeared. The lights came back on. Mrs. Jules picked up the piece of chalk from the floor. She wrote on the blackboard, 2 + 2 = 4. That's good, she said. When 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, anything can happen. All the children who had laughed at Stephen now called him a hero, but they told him to change out of his stupid costume. So at lunch, Stephen went home, washed up, and changed. He came back wearing blue jeans and a polo shirt, and of course his hair was still green. It always was. Chapter 30, Louis. Last chapter. Louis had a red face and a mustache of many colors. He was the art teacher at Wayside School. It was his job to see that the children didn't have too much fun during lunch and recess. And if you had already guessed it, he was the one who wrote this book. On June 10th, there was a blizzard. Louis was afraid that the children would have too much fun, so nobody was allowed outside. Class, said Mrs. Jules, after you finish your lunch today, come back to the classroom. You are not allowed outside. The children all went to the lunchroom, and Miss Mush had made tuna surprise. They looked at it and then hurried back up the stairs. There was nothing to do. Now class, said Mrs. Jules, I know that you are all bored, but I have a special surprise for you. I hope it's better than tuna surprise, said Maricela. Mrs. Jules continued, Louis is going to come up and entertain us. He will tell us a story. Now I want you to all be on your best behavior. When Louis walked in, all the children booed. Are you going to tell us a story? Asked Bibi. Yeah, said Louis. Well, better be good, warned Bibi. It better be better than tuna surprise, said Butterfingers. I thought the tuna surprise was good, said Louis. You'd eat dirt if they put enough ketchup on it, said Mac. Hey, everybody, be quiet, said Todd. Let him tell us a story. Not too loud, Louis, said Sherry. I'm trying to get some sleep. Louis sat in the middle of the room, and all the children gathered round. He began his story. This is a story about a school very much like this one. But before we get started, there is something you ought to know so that you don't get confused. This is the school where every single classroom is on the same story. Which one, the 18th, said Jenny. No, said Louis. They are all on the ground. The school is 1 story high. That's not much of a school, laughed Damien. Louis continued. Now you might think the children were strange and silly, and that's probably true. However, when I told them stories about you, they thought that you were strange and silly. Us? The children answered. How are we strange? I'm normal, said Stephen. Aren't I? As normal as I am, Joe assured him. The children at that school must be crazy, said Leslie. Real Lulus, Maricela agreed. Tell us about them, Louis, Bibi demanded. For one thing, said Louis, none of the children have ever been turned into apples. That's silly, said Dee Dee. Everybody's been turned into an apple. It's a part of growing up. Louis continued. Dead rats don't walk into classrooms wearing raincoats. What do they wear, tuxedos? Asked Todd. And girls never try to sell their toes, Louis added. Well, no wonder, said Leslie, at today's prices. And Louis continued. They don't trade names or read upside down. They can't turn mosquitoes into numbers. They can't count the hairs on their heads. The walls don't laugh. And 2 + 2 always equals 4. That's horrible, said Damien. And that's not the worst of it, said Louis. They have never tasted Maricela-flavored ice cream. A hush fell over the classroom. Mrs. Jules, I'm scared, said Allison. Is there really a school like that? Oh, of course not, said Mrs. Jules. Louis was just telling a story. It was a good story, said Leslie. I thought it was stupid, said Kathy. I liked it, said Rondi. It was funny. Mrs. Jules said, Louis, it was a very entertaining story, but we don't really go in for much fairy tales around here. I'm trying to teach my class the truth. That's all right, said Louis. I'll just have to go down to room 29 now and I'll tell him a story, he said. Class, said Mrs. Jules, let's all thank Louis for his wonderful story. Everyone booed. The end. Oh, it's like they were describing us. Yeah, we just finished Wayside in a quarantine. That's kind of cool. One thing I forgot to do, which I always sometimes forget to do, is I colored in something new. It's a red koi fish and a green koi fish, and I named them Bob and Larry. Do you know what I'm naming them after? I hope you do. Well, today's a wrap up. So many things to say. I just want to say, and I know I say it every time, but it's real. I love you. I miss you. I am proud of you. I can't wait to see your beautiful faces again. I'm always praying for you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. You guys are awesome. And I love you, and I'll always be here for you, so please reach out. This has been a really weird end to the school year, but this school year still was wonderful and awesome, and thank you for making great memories with me, because you're the best. And I loved being your teacher. But yeah, have a wonderful day and a great summer. Love you guys.